Snaps for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but
George Shaw Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
Brandon,
We can't ask Rashad questions.
Okay, Rashad.
Happy Wednesday. Yeah. This man, bro, if I my name is John Milligan. I'm gonna read you read the title of what I'm about to do. Link to the original video will be in the description. Time 2024 Athlete of the Year, Caitlin Clark. First of all, salute the time for making that Athlete of the Year a woman, first of all. And also double salute to Caitlin Clark for this crazy sensation that's been going on with Caitlin. Like, of course, it's been so much thing back and forth about it. I know Iowa fans and Caitlin fans been on my head, which is crazy because I was one of the first people to react to Caitlin. But still, they've been on my head for some of the things that I've said in the past and some of the positions that I've taken. All in all, what Caitlin has done is sensational. The excitement that she's brought to the game, the fanfare, everything like that. For her and Angel Reese as well. And I have to mention Angel Reese. People like, why are you mentioning the other? They're one and the same because, it all started with the championship game in that particular moment at the end of the championship game, after the championship game, whenever you guys want to say it. It all started at that point where the fanfare just took to another level. All right, hold on. Let me turn my camera a little bit. All right, cool beans. Let's read. This is 38 minutes. Oh, few jobs require less physical exertion than rebounding for Caitlin Clark. On an early November morning in downtown Indianapolis, Clark, the two-time National College Player of the Year for the University of Iowa, reigning WNBA Rookie of the Year for the Indiana Fever, an emerging American sports icon, sprints to different spots along the three-point line at the Fever practice gym, trying to bang out as many shots possible over a 6-minute span. A Fever coach has tasked me under the basket to retrieve her misses. But as Clark runs all over the court to launch long-range bombs, I had to barely move. Swish, swish, swish. She hits 14 in a row, a dozen in a row, 11 in a row. Swish, swish, swish. 9 in a row, another 9. Sure, she's putting on this display in practice, but her ability is still mesmerizing. Clark, 22, takes shots with a degree of difficulty never before witnessed in a women's game. Her signature 30-foot launches from near half court on the team's logos across America are akin to home run balls, hanging high in the air. Can she actually make that flabbergasting attempt? Yes, it turns out, over and over again. After her workout, I filled Clark into statistics from her shooting season. 93 three-pointers in 6 minutes, good for an 85% success rate. And salute to the cover. Salute to the cover, man. Salute to the cover. Remarkable job from the stylist, remarkable job from the photographers, the person who was blowing the fan, all of these things. The message came across as Caitlin. You could have dolled her up in something that she was uncomfortable in, that she didn't really rock. Obviously Caitlin is very comfortable, very kind of like tomboyish with her style and stuff like that. And I felt like they nailed it here with this cover. So salute to everybody, the team on this cover as well. Wow, she responds from the driver's seat of her gray Lexus GX. That's pretty good. Nice to know that after wowing so many people around the world throughout her record-breaking year, Clark can still impress herself. In February, she set the new NCAA Division I women's basketball scoring record. A few weeks later, she broke Hall of Famer Pete Maravich's mark, making her the top scorer overall. Her college championship game between Iowa and South Carolina averaged 18.9 million viewers, becoming the second most watched women's sporting event outside of the Olympic Games in the history of U.S. television, with American viewership outdrawing that each game of the 2024 NBA Finals and World Series. For the first time ever, more people tuned in for women's basketball NCAA championship than the men's. As a pro, she set the rookie record for the most three-pointers made in the season, while also setting the all-time WNBA marks for the most assists in the season and the most assists in a single game. She signed a reported $28 million endorsement deal with Nike, the largest ever for a women's basketball player. Clark's Fever appeared in the most watched WNBA games ever on ABC, CBS, ESPN, and ESPN2. The WNBA attracted an all-time record of more than 54 million unique viewers across its national broadcasting platforms during the regular season, and the league's overall attendance jumped from 48% year over year to its highest level in more than 2 decades. The Fever broke the WNBA record for home attendance by a single franchise, and Fever games were moved into NBA and NHL arenas in Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. to accommodate the hordes of fans, many donning Clark's number 22 jersey. The Washington Mystics Fever regular season finale set a new WNBA single game attendance record of 20,711. When asked to define the year in one word, Clark chose historic. Clark, it quickly becomes clear, is polite and down to earth, but also has not an ounce of false humility. I've been able to captivate so many people that have never watched women's basketball, women's sports, let alone women's basketball, and turn them into fans, she says. Good luck naming any other player who altered the trajectory of their entire team sport within 5 months of the job. Lionel Messi had momentum influence on Major League Soccer when he arrived to Miami last year, but he was in year 20 of his pro career. Michael Jordan energized the NBA in the mid-1980s, but Larry Bird and Magic Johnson had already put the league on solid footing. While other female athletes have pushed the limits of human achievement and created their own cultures, Serena Williams, Simone Biles, and the stars of the U.S. women's national soccer team all come to mind. The Clark phenomenon is still unprecedented. It's one thing to rally around athletes during global spectacles like tennis majors or Olympics or World Cup. It's quite another to turn a routine regular season games in the WNBA, a league neglected for far too long over its 27-year history, into an appointment viewing. Salute. To be clear, Clark had plenty of help. The WNBA was already enjoying positive momentum going into the 2024 season thanks to MVPs like Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart, and some of Clark's fellow rookies like Angel Reese and Cameron Brink brought their own followings. Let's give Paige Beckers her credit as well. This started with Paige Beckers when Paige Beckers was at Hopkins High School in Minnesota and Slam, Overtime, all the people you can name, Bleacher Report, BR Hoops, they were all there at the games with the cameras, and she was going viral. And kids, and then young hoop fans and prep hoops fans was like, Paige was that. It started with Paige in high school. Like, she needs that credit as well. Even during a period when investment across women's sports is surging, team valuations are on the rise, and fan interest and engagement are at all-time highs, her arrival was transformative. Clark's skyrocketing fame has upended her life at a dizzying rate. She now has an advanced security squad. A fan asked to sign her sonogram. There's just so much weird stuff she says. The Golf Channel, I remember that, but it's just reading it just like took me back to that time. The Golf Channel covered her appearance at a LGPA Pro-Am event as if she were Tiger Woods in her prime, moving up its studio time by 90 minutes to provide live look-ins at her swings. She's box office, said Atlanta Dream co-owner Renee Montgomery, a former WNBA player. At times, the plot proved unpleasant. All year, Clark found herself party to raging debates, even though she rarely, if ever, did anything to perpetuate them. I tell people I feel like the most controversial person, but I'm not. Is just not because of all the storylines that surround me. I literally try to live and treat everybody the same exact respectful kind of way. It just confuses me at times. Okay. Okay. I told people this on Thanksgiving, and I'll say it again. I think Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese taught me more about society and modern day society in 2024 and 2023 than any other group of people. Any other duo of people, they taught me the most about the current state of modern society. And it really shows you in real time kind of like the state of the relations that we as humans have with just general division, and of course, to be more kind of surface level race, but it's deeper. It's just general division in humans and sides to be taken, how ugly it can get, and the fact that it's still there and how prevalent it still is. I saw someone defending Angel Reese in a comment section of Twitter, And one person responded, just curious, what color are you? Straight up. She straight up asked that. And the person responded, white. Now, jerk face, this, that. It's been so ugly and crazy with this thing in this water boot. It's taught me more about the current human relations than any other thing, group of people, duo, whatever you want to say. Excuse me. Her gender played a role in this level of scrutiny is hard to deny. Clark's introductory press conference with the Fever was a harbinger of things to come. A male reporter appeared to make a cringeworthy attempt at flirtation with Clark. He was suspended and prohibited from covering the Fever. As the season progressed, more flashpoints emerged, whether concerning the marketing advantage granted by her race, fouls that players committed against her, or her exclusion from the U.S. Olympic team that spurred her so-called defenders to push racist, misogynist, anti-LGBTQ narratives, or even threaten WNBA players directly. She calls this toxicity upsetting and gross, but during the season, she addressed the discourse mostly when asked about it in courtside interviews or at a press conference rather than proactively engaging with it. It's not something I can control, and to be honest, I don't see a lot of it, she told Athletics' Jim Trotter in June. Her Senate interview with Time is the first time she's talked about it at length in her career. All of this is really speaking to something that is much larger than Caitlin Clark. There it is. Thank you. This is what I've been saying the entire time, says Teresa Runs the letter. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I got to get that pronunciation right. A scholar of African American history at the American University is speaking to the unresolved issues about race, gender, and sexuality in America's society at this particular fraught moment in our political landscape. This is the perfect way to put it. Thank you so much, Miss Teresa. Still, in the face of all this heaviness, joy remains constant, a resonant vibe of Clark's 2024. Her talent brought together communities and SOR arenas in sports bars and living rooms on social media to celebrate her life, unselfish play, the ability to score in inconceivable ways when she needed to. Clark certainly fed off of this electricity. You feel powerful, Clark says. Instantly, everybody goes crazy. People are invested in this game. They love the game. And that's what makes it so much fun to me. These people aren't supporting women's sports to check a box. It's going to be the new normal. Salute. The weekend before our interview, Clark attended back-to-back Taylor Swift shows at Lucas Oil Stadium. She met Swift's mother and boyfriend, Kansas City tight end Travis Kelce. When fans noticed her sitting in the suite, they turned around to take pictures and toss her friendship bracelets. People are just going crazy that I'm here, she says. I thought people would be so in their own world, ready to see Taylor, and it was completely the opposite. Swift gave Clark four bags of the Eras Tour merchandise with the note saying Clark was inspiring to watch from afar. She said, Trav and I were excited to get to a Fever game now that the tour was winding down and invited Clark to attend the Chiefs game with her. Oh, imagine Caitlin Clark and that, but imagine Caitlin Clark replacing Ice Spice at the Super Bowl. Clark has always seemed destined for greatness, if not the friendship for the biggest pop star in the world. Her path to this women's sports paradigm shift started in West Des Moines, Iowa, where Clark played multiple sports as a kid before focusing on her best one. She's the second to three children. Clark has two brothers. Her father, Brent Clark, is the executive vice president at a company that sells and distributes agriculture and industrial parts. And her mother, Ann Nassie Clark, is a retired marketing executive. Jan Jensen, an Iowa assistant coach at the time, first watched Clark play when she was in middle school. She hit a step back three-pointer and threw a long pass her teammate couldn't catch, but the ball was on the money. You could see her swag, says Jensen, the way she walked in a PB game and everybody's like, your shot hit the rim, let's go get ice cream. She's like, I don't want freaking ice cream. I want to win. That's when Caitlin Clark's mission began. Her Catholic family wanted her to pick Notre Dame for college, but Clark shunned the Fighting Irish for the chance to play for her home state school. She put up big numbers at Iowa immediately, but had trouble hiding her frustrations. She'd shake her head when she screwed up or take it out on a towel or a chair. If someone couldn't catch a pass, she'd throw up her hands and do pyrite, says Lisa Bluter, Lisa Bluter, the Iowa head coach during Clark's years at the school. Bluter retired after the season, and now Jensen runs the program. The coaching staff worked with Clark to improve her body language, showing her video of her outbursts, and she reined it in for the most part. But her junior year, I was knocking off the. She didn't. She was still throwing temper tantrums. By her junior year, I was knocking off undefeated South Carolina and national semis to reach the finals against LSU. The championship game was Iowa's inauguration into the 24-hour sports news cycle. In the final moments, when it became clear LSU would win, Tigers forward Angel Reese approached Clark and pointed to her ring finger with a bit of trash talking that sparked needlessly cruel backlash. Reese was labeled classless and worse. Angel, Clark, and Reese were pitted against each other as rivals, a narrative that is carried over into the WNBA. I don't get that at all, says Clark. We're not best friends by any means, but we're very respectful of one another. Yes, we had some tremendous battles, but when have I ever guarded her? When she has ever guarded me? She downplays Reese's gesture. I didn't think it was taunting. It really didn't bother me. It's just like, why don't you talk about them winning or the incredible run that we went on that nobody would have thought that we ever would have gone on? The only thing people cared about was controversy, and that was really fabricated and made up, and then had continued to be the case ever since. Going into her senior year, Clark was very much. It's because people care about drama more than they care about the actual game, Caitlin. Going into her senior year, Clark was in a very much different position than women's basketball players who have ever come up before her. Iowa played summer exhibition games in Italy and Croatia with the help of the name, image, and likeness sponsorship money from brands like Nike, Buick, and the Midwestern grocery stores. Hy-Vee. Clark treated her teammates to a yacht outing and the Adriatic. I wouldn't say it was boozy. Boozy? I would say bougie. Okay. Boozy. I've never heard the word boozy before. Says former Iowa manager Will McIntyre, now the director of scouting and technology for the Rutgers women's team. I would say bougie. Clark loved college life, and even considering returning for a fifth year instead of entering for the 2024 WNBA draft because of the COVID-19 pandemic. NCAA players were granted an extra year of eligibility. Around January, however, Clark knew it was time to move on. It helped that the Fever had won the draft lottery, assuring that Clark, unquestionably the number one pick, would begin her career in the Midwest. She announced her intention to enter the draft at the end of February. Len Dunn, then the Fever general manager, now a senior advisor, says the news on X. I would have done back handspring if I wasn't 77 years old, says. That's funny, says Dunn. About a month later, on the eve of this year's NCAA tournament, West Virginia's coach told the players to lessen Caitlin Clark packing. So after Iowa dispatched the Mountaineers in the second round, Clark took a microphone before practice, stood on the scores table, and saying country roads at the top of her lungs. I just kind of troll, Clark says. She has a big, loud personality with people she's comfortable with. When former Iowa teammate Kate Martin visited Clark's Indeed apartment as a member of the Las Vegas Aces in September, Clark serenaded her with Luke Combs' song on the karaoke machine. She's not a good singer at all, says Martin. For the record, Timmy, hold on, Timmy. Shout out to Timmy. Timmy, who was Clark's favorite teammate this season and will join Martin on the expansion team for the Golden State Valkyries in the 2025 season, disagrees. As a rookie, Clark was tasked with singing Happy Birthday to Team's Fest. She wouldn't just sing a regular happy birthday, says Timmy, who gives Clark's voice a 7.5 on a 10-point scale and believes her sense of humor and charisma are a part of her appeal. It would be a grandiose experience. She loves her moments. After a much hype Clark Reese rematch in the Elite Eight that drew the second largest ESPN audience to any basketball game, college or pro, in a dozen years, the Hawkeyes fell short in the championship game for the second straight year. It's time to once again undefeated South Carolina. During the podium celebration, Don Staley, the venerated Gamecocks coach, clutched the mic and said, I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for uplifting our sport. Clark had little time to reflect on her accomplishments. 2 days later, 2 days before the WNBA draft, she flew to New York City after staying up late in Los Angeles while receiving the Wooden Award as National Player of the Year. Went straight to Saturday Night Live set and collapsed on the couch there from fatigue. She got big laughs during her weekend update segment, needling co-host Michael Che for his past jokes about women's sports. Her favorite after Che told Clark that he passed along a signed apron she gave him to his girlfriend. Clark quipped, "You don't have a girlfriend, Michael." The crowd howled. Clark says Jason Sudeikis, who had cheered her on at Iowa games, had suggested that add-on. Clark's segment did include a more serious moment where she quite thanked the quintet of black women: Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper Dyke, Staley, and Maya Moore. Clark's basketball hero growing up for paving the way for her success. These stars, despite their athletic prowess, were never rewarded the same way of level of attention that Clark is now receiving. America was founded on segregation and to this day is very much black and white. Timmy, who loved playing with Clark, writes in a text message, "In a sport dominated by black African American players, white America has rallied around Caitlin Clark. The support looks mostly amazing, sometimes fanatical and territorial, sometimes racist. It seems like the great white hope syndrome is at play again." 100%. Going into the WNBA season, Wilson, a two-time league champion and now three-time MVP, told the Associated Press she thought Clark's race was a huge contributor to her popularity. "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to get swept under the rug," Wilson said. "That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is." Clark is cognizant of the racial underpinnings of her stardom. "I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is a privilege," says Clark. "A lot of those players in the league, they have really been good, really been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's important. I have to continue to try and change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing." When Clark and her fellow soon to be rookies arrived to the WNBA draft on April 15th, it was clear that women's basketball had to enter the new era. Clark, who fans had mostly seen in her jersey, gym shorts, and a ponytail, became the first athlete in the WNBA or NBA to be dressed for the draft head to toe in Prada, right down to the tinted sunglasses she wore on the orange carpet. The event broke another viewership record as ESPN's audience more than quadrupled from the previous year. Clark's Fever teammates received a taste of their own reality in the preseason trip to Dallas to play the Wings. For one of only two times this year, Indiana flew commercial. The WNBA instituted charter flights for the regular season, and autograph hounds greeted the team at the gate. "People were literally running after us," slash Caitlin in the airport, says Fever guard Lexi Hull. "Cameras flashed as they went to baggage claim. The Fever needed to load the bus, so Clark didn't have time to start for pictures. One guy chastised her. 'Caitlin, you're not that big time.' 'I'm that big time,' Caitlin says now. 'But you just chased me through the terminal.'" Excuse me. Chrissy Sides, the Fever coach this past season, recalls the throng of people gathered to watch Clark walk to the bus before the regular season debut against the Connecticut Sun. "It was people my age," says, excuse me, says Size 47. "It was people's my parents' age. It was people, hold on, where we at? It was people between me and my parents' age. I saw people crying. I saw people shaking. It made me think of the Beatles or Elvis." Didn't I say that? When she came to Atlanta, bro, it was like a rock star, bro. Like it was like I said, some Michael Jackson type. I'm not even gonna lie to you, in basketball form, I had never seen no fanfare like that, bro. Ever, bro. Like I wasn't old enough to see Jordan when Jordan played at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, right? And like I'd imagine it was something similar to what Caitlin Clark was this season, bro, in 2024. And I was old enough to be there for Jordan's Wizard years, but like my dad never took me to those games. Like, you know what I'm saying? He took my stepmom. So, you know, it is what it is. I get it. Despite all the hype, however, the Fever season threatened to implode before it ever really got started. Clark committed 10 turnovers in that debut game, a new record for a career opener. The schedule offered no favors to the young team, which also included reigning WNBA Rookie of the Year, Aaliyah Boston, the number one overall pick of 2023. The Fever faced the Sun, a league semifinalist this season, and the New York Liberty, the 2024 champs, in this Force 4 contest before headed to the West for a 3-game swing that included a matchup against the 2023 champs, the Aces. Clearly, there was zero flow within the team, says Clark. It was so choppy, and no one really knew what the other person was doing. Our defense was really bad, 100%. Clark was also adjusting to the rigors of the WNBA. Professional players and professional coaches, this is no disrespect to college women's basketball, are a lot smarter. What? She's saying, I love women's college basketball, but if I go back and watch the way people guarded me in college, it's almost like concerning. They didn't double me, they didn't trap me, they weren't physical, and it's hard. It's college. A lot of these women will never go on to play another basketball game in their lives. They don't have the IQ of understanding how the game works. So I completely understand it. There's no disrespect at all. They don't have the IQ. You have to simply, for the girls at that age. There were glimmers of hope during Indiana's 1-8 start. Clark had a few big scoring games and was second in the league in assists. She was named League Rookie of the Month for May. She wasn't having trouble getting her shot off. She just wasn't making enough of them. She was spotting open teammates. She just needed to clean up some of the passes. I never really got down because I knew everything was controllable, says Clark. I would come home at night and would be like, this is so annoying because I know I'm literally like right there of being one of the best players in the league. She holds her forefinger in a millinage, millinage of from her thumb. Millinch. She holds her forefinger a millinage from her thumb. I knew I was so close to doing so many amazing things. When the Fever hosted the Chicago Sky and Reese in the first pro meeting between the two college superstars on June 1st, Indiana gutted out a 71-70 victory. Clark had skipped the Noah Khan concert, number one on my bucket list the night before, knowing it would have been a bad look to be seen out given the team's terrible record. But that contest won't be remembered for the basketball. In the third quarter, Chicago's Kennedy Carter hip checked Clark to the floor. Carter was called for a foul, which the next day was upgraded to a flagrant 1 violation. But while the WNBA could revise the ruling, it could not stem the ensuing furor. That Reese jumped off the bench and appeared to cheer Carter only, oh man, added fuel to another Clark adjacent fire. Some pundits cited Carter's foul as evidence that jealous players, particularly black players, were targeting Clark. The Chicago Tribune weighed in on the editorial, imploring that Clark must not be allowed to be a target for rule breakers. The Tribune wrote that Carter's foul would have been seen as an assault outside of the sports arena. The intense commentary came with consequences. Security had to intervene. The Sky's hotel a few days later when a man approached Carter with a camera. I've been called every racial slur imaginable. Later, and my teammates have had it even worse. Sky forward Breezy Turner wrote on X. Clark cast aside any notion that envious opponents were coming after her. I never thought that I was being targeted. Obviously, that shouldn't ever happen in our game, but basketball is physical. Your emotions can get the best of you. My emotions have gotten the best of me at times. Of course, thank you. Thank you. Caitlin is telling the truth, speaking the gospel right here, bro. Uh my emotions have gotten the best of me sometimes. Where we at? Where we at? Here we go. She says she did not see Reese cheering from the bench. I don't even know if she really knew what happened, says Clark. Honestly, I don't think she was cheering because somebody hit me. I really don't think that would be the case. I hope not. Reese's representatives did not make her available for this article. Is crazy. A lot of people that wanted to have, y'all can't that there ain't something there, bro. There is. You can't gaslight me. Like Caitlin said, we're not the best of friends, but we don't hate each. Ah, ah, ah. A lot of people that have wanted to have opinions on what was happening probably didn't even watch half the games that were trying to take on, and hadn't supported the W for a really long time. The day after the incident in a matchup against the Liberty, Clark ran into Jonquel Jones' screen and ruptured her eardrum. It was vibrating, Clark says. My hearing was really messed up. She shot 1 for 10 from the field and 36-point drubbing. A 5-day reprieve from the schedule came at the perfect moment. During those days off, Clark shot extremely well during drills. They gave me a lot of confidence, says Clark. It just reiterates you are one of the best shooters. In Indiana's first game back, Clark hit 7 3-pointers en route to a 30-point game and the Fever victory. On the bus, Clark texted her agent that she hoped the performance helped her case to make the Olympic team for Paris. Clark's agent responded immediately, I have to call you. And I'm like, ish. The news predictably was unpleasant. The Olympic roster was about to leak, and Clark wasn't on it. USA basketball officials hopped on a call with Clark, and they were like, "Yeah, we haven't selected you. Obviously, we think the world of how you play ball and blah blah blah." She wasn't really listening. She knew she was good enough to make the team, and she had heard rumblings that she would be. At the same time, she understood the decision. The 12 players selected included many future Hall of Famers and Olympic veterans. A point everybody was making was like, who are you taking off the team? Clark says. That's a tremendous point. Clark also admits that during her early stretch of the play for the 3-9 Fever, I gave them a lot of reasons to keep me off the team with my play. Thank you. Many people, however, rushed to her defense. The gist of the pro Clark case, women's basketball, rushed to her defense. Oh, I thought it said to her defense. I was like, her defense is one of the reasons she. Yeah, I agree. The gist of a pro Clark case, women's basketball missed the golden market and opportunity to grow the sport given Clark's popularity. It's an argument that Clark wholly rejects. I don't want to be there because I'm somebody that can bring attention, says Clark. I love that for the game of women's basketball, but at the same time, I want to be there because they think I'm good enough. I don't want to be some little person that is kind of dragged around for people to cheer about and only watch because I'm sitting on the bench. That whole narrative kind of upset me because this is not fair. It's disrespectful for the people that were on the team that had earned it and were really good. It also is disrespectful to myself. For the second time in about a week, Clark was leading the sports news cycle. No matter what the NBA Finals had just tipped off, everyone had a hot take on Clark, except it seemed for Clark. I have a great skill of just blocking it out. I don't care what people have to say about me. That's cap. Everybody cares what people say about them. To a certain extent, you might not care as much as the next person, but you care some level. Clark told Size to snub, woke up a monster. Making the 2028 team is a huge, huge goal, she says. She says, believe being left off the Paris roster will definitely motivate me my entire career. She calls her exclusion a blessing. Not only did it fuel her to prove that she belonged on a team, it also granted her a much needed break. There'd be a 1 month pause in the WNBA schedule to accommodate players competing at the Olympics. The monster arose almost immediately as the Fever began to turn their season around. Indiana went on a 4-game winning streak in June. Clark recorded her first ever rookie triple double, at least 10 points, assists, and rebounds during the home victory against the Liberty. Right before the WNBA All-Star game, she had 19 assists, a new WNBA single game record against the Wings. She started in the All-Star game against the U.S. Olympic team and had 10 assists to help her side to a 117-110 victory. Most importantly, her All-Star experience further dispelled the notion that her pro colleagues were out to put her in her place. Her fellow All-Stars, Clark says, are all looking to me to call plays. It just showed a sign of respect that they really do have for me. During the first week of the Olympic break, she escaped to Cabo San Lucas with her boyfriend, former Iowa basketball player Connor McCaffrey, who spent the past season as a basketball development staffer with the Pacers and is now an assistant coach at Butler University. She drank a million Shirley Temples with Sprite, devoured French bruchet, and read Emily Henry's Happy Place. Refreshed, she returned to Indianapolis, where the Fever practiced over the break, participating in bonding activities like wiffle ball, like home run derby. Clark once again displayed her troll side. Nobody was able to hit, she says. I was smashing bombs and it was pissing everybody off. And it was so good because I was talking crap and then I backed it up. When the Fever returned home for games, they won 7 of their first 8. Clark led the team to the playoffs for the first time since 2016 and raised their play to all WNBA first team level. During the dog days of August, when sports radio is usually obsessing over the NFL season, upcoming NFL season, host debated the Rookie of the Year race between Reese and Clark, who set new WNBA record for double doubles, at least 10 points and 10 rebounds in the season. By this point, Clark had gone global. The owner of a Chinese restaurant in West Des Moines recently told Clark's mother that she had overheard two kids talking about her daughter on a Taiwanese subway. Clark watch parties were held in Iceland. That's crazy. Fever president Allison Barber, who has since left the franchise to launch a youth sports complex for girls, was driving through Northwest Indiana this summer when she stopped for soup. The owner of the joint saw a Fever logo on the shirt and asked if she had a connection to the team. As Barbara was walking to her car, the owner chased her holding his phone. He asked if she could say hello to her elderly dad, a Clark diehard in Greece. Wow. Charles Whitehead, a logistics manager from Orange, New Jersey, drove 3 hours to the Mohegan Sun to watch the Indiana take on Connecticut in the first round of the playoffs. Whitehead paid some $500 for a seat near the front row. Caitlin got me here, says Whitehead, 35, wearing a red Clark Fever jersey. He points across the court where Caitlin is signing autographs less than an hour before tip-off. Rockstar, he says. I wonder if before Clark's emergence, Whitehead ever pictured himself wearing a women's basketball jersey and playing good money for WNBA playoff tickets. Nope, nope, nope. Never, 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 he says. Clark thought Indiana could make it to the championship. People would laugh if they read that in the article, but I was being dead serious. Uh, in the end, however, the Sun swept the Fever, but not before Clark found herself at the center of one last controversy. In Game 1, Connecticut's Dejanay Carrington poked Clark in the eye while trying to deflect the pass. The contact became more fodder than for social media and elsewhere. After USA Today's Christine Brennan asked Carrington if she intended to hit Clark in the eye, obviously it was never intentional. Carrington said the WNBA Players Unit publicly called for Brennan's credentials to be revoked, saying the interview was a blatant attempt to bait a professional athlete into participating in a narrative that is false and designed to fool racist, homophobic, and misogynistic vitriol on social media. After the Sun eliminated the Fever, Connecticut's Alyssa Thomas said, "I think that in my 11-year career, I never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base." The whole contempt, cruncher, cold cruncher still annoys Clark. Never once did that cross my mind that I did it on purpose, she says. I've been poked in the eye many times playing basketball. It happens. Clark feels debate about intent reveals a gender double standard. If that would have happened in the NBA, do you think people would have showed up the next day and been like, "Hey, Tyrese Halliburton, did you poke Steph Curry in the eye on purpose?" She says. While Clark said she wasn't aware that the union was going to reprimand Brennan, she supported its decision. That whole line of questioning that Carrington got was just not appropriate, and I did not like that, she says. Many observers seem inclined to reserve judgment on Clark and her approach to confronting off court issues, given that she was a rookie adjusting to life as an athletic icon. She should be afforded some grace, Timmy texts. Understanding that racial tensions in this country, uh, could she have been more proactive about condemning her racist fans and distancing herself from them? Sure, if she's comfortable standing up for others, challenging her racist fans unsolicited, but not everyone is built like that. When asked if Clark did enough to combat racist threats against other players, Montgomery, the Atlanta Dream co-owner and former player, declined to comment. Dream forward Cheyenne Parker Tyus, meanwhile, says she thinks Clark handled it all well. I'm not concerned about her and how she stands with the racial comments and hateful comments, she says. She feels the way we all feel. She's made that clear. I know people want her to say more and do more, and I'm like, at 22 years old, how many of us have that skill set, have the ability to communicate? Says former Fever star and Hall of Famer Tamika Catchings, who franchise rookie scoring record Clark broke this year. She's a game changer on the court, but having to be a changer off the court and get into the politics part of it, I don't know if that's her responsibility. Excuse me, sorry. Terry Jackson, executive director of the WNBA Players Association, hopes Clark leans into her voice more down the road. Let's be clear, she says. The responsibility for setting the tone and sending a message was absolutely at the league and the team, but particularly at the league level. During her WNBA Finals press conference, Commissioner Kathy Engelberg promised to attack racism against its players multidimensionally. She hinted at potential online controls to help cleanse the discourse. There have been some technology solutions out there that we could deploy and employ. What does that even mean, Kathy? Uh, what comes with being a professional athlete is speaking on important issues. Says four-time WNBA champion and five-time gold medal Olympic medalist Sue Bird. I'm sorry, man. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And so I imagine she's going to continue to educate and get better at that as well. In today's world, people will use you if you don't speak about your own feelings and thoughts. So by getting more comfortable and confident in your voice, you can eliminate that. This is coming from Sue Bird, who was also like at the attack. Her and Diana Taurasi just a few years ago were also attacked for being white and having more like attention on their retirement runs and their career runs and the way they're viewed in the greatest of all time discussions versus their black counterparts like Sylvia Fowles, who was also retiring the same year. Clark says she really does stay off social media during the season and wasn't aware of the talk about the eye poke, for example, was percolating until she was asked about it. It's something that I'm trying to navigate. Even if you're off social media, bro, people are texting you what's going on social media. And she's always on her phone, as we've seen. You can't say that you didn't know about nothing if you weren't on social media because people tell you everything that's going on. You talk to your mom or your cousin or your friend on the phone, they're gonna tell you what's going on, bro. It just happens, man. It's something I'm trying to navigate. I'm trying to find a balance while being a rookie, but she hears the calls imploring her to step up her colleagues, particularly in a league that is known for its outspokenness on social justice issues. I'm probably the most popular player in the league at the moment, and somebody a lot of people turn to have a voice on this type of stuff. I hope we can do a better job as a league protecting our players and putting better resources around them to make them feel like it's a safer environment. And obviously, there's so much you can do to police social media because we don't have full control over social media. But there is real responsibility. I understand that and I acknowledge that. So, what's her message to bad faith? Harassing others in her name? Just stop, she says, because that's not who I am. To get lunch after her workout, I trailed Clark down a rainy back alleyway that smells like garbage, past the raised trash service bins through the kitchen, down the narrow flight of stairs to a private room at the restaurant, scouted by her security team. She says her team gave her a nearly 30-page PDF with instructions on how to navigate movements at the Swift concert. I tell Clark and Hole, who has joined us, that the walk reminded me of the famous scene from Goodfellas where the mafioso played by Ray Liotta enters the Copacabana through the kitchen. They haven't seen the film yet, but appreciate the comparison. We're mobsters, says Clark. Over carnadas and fish tacos, we talk about their new head coach, Stephanie White, who had been hired 3 days earlier. Indiana dismissed sides in October. Management wanted a coach with more playoff experience. White, the former Fever player, coached the Sun for the past 2 seasons and led Indiana to the WNBA Finals as head coach in 2015 against the Minnesota Lynx. Clark insists she had nothing to do with the change. I'm not actually the general manager of the team. Believe it or not, whole ads. Clark's eyes were glued to the TV where USC women's are playing Ole Miss on the opening day of college basketball. I felt like if I was out there, I would literally have 50. The college game is so much easier than professional. But Clark knows she gets better. She expresses admiration for White's game plans against the Fever. We didn't usually have the best game plan back. Ooh. Clark said of White stopped by the gym during her workout. Like, here's a ball screen, Caitlin, figure it out. It took me this long to read, but I got to the T. At one point, talk turned into Clark's high school soccer career. I would get so many yellow cards, Clark said. You still do, White said. What are you talking about? Indeed, Clark finished the season with 6 technical fouls, tied for the second most in the WNBA. I only probably deserve like 2. Ha! White yelled. She's a comedian too. Controlling Clark's fire has been a challenge for her coaches. It makes her special, but text can come back to bite you. Same with her mistakes. Clark shattered the WNBA's all-time record for turnovers, but you want her throwing some of those high risk passes. As for other areas of improvement, Clark is working on her mid range shooting. I used to have a middle bag, she says. I just never had to use it. And she wants to get stronger. Team's number one tactic for stopping me is be physical with her, Clark says, because they know I don't like it or it can throw me off. Speculation was swirling around whether Clark would play in Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league founded by Stewart and Afisa Collier that begins in January. The startup has attracted the attention as a way of WNBA players to make more money without having to go overseas. Still, Clark, who has made $75,000 in her salary in the first year with the Fever, but thanks to many of her endorsements, is doing just fine financially, is taking a pass. I didn't rule it out doing it in the future, but this year is just not the best for me. She thinks spending the winter lifting weights and working solo in the gym will elevate her game. It's going to be good for me to just do my own thing and have my own space, she says. I kind of want to just stay out the spotlight. She'll be back there soon enough. Personally, I'm just scratching the surface of what I can do and hopefully how I can change the world and impact people, she says. There's also been so many people that are not involved in the women's sports and that are just in the workforce or whatever they do. And they're just like, thank you for what you do for women. I've heard that millions of times. With lunch wrap, Clark drives to White's press conference where she sits front row with Boston and Hull. Her day concludes at the historic Hinkle Field House, where she watches McCaffrey's Butler teams win its season opener. Fifth grader Ellie Dillon and a friend, both wearing Clark shirts, wait more than half an hour after the game to catch Clark, who, as she's leaving the gym with McCaffrey, stops to give him autographs. It almost doesn't feel real, says Dillon, moments after meeting Clark. That's actually her standing right in front of you. Is that it? That's it. Gee. All right, I'm going to get to this one.
That's for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
Yeah, we can't ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.